but we had to change the topic because he had only 24 hours time to prepare for his teaching. So therefore, he chose the topic that he is really, really brilliant in. And so the topic today will be sustainability. So thank you very much, Joel, that you will be with us. And it's really a privilege that we can have you here.
My pleasure.
So
thank you very much.
I have the privilege to introduce Joel Vuadan to you. So Joel is an international trained lecturer, executive coach, mentor, and public speaker based here in Switzerland. Joel is Swiss. He's married since many years, I think more than 25 years.
26, yes.
And his wife is from Malaysia. He has made several trainings, including a Master of Business and Administration in the University of Cumbria, UK. Actually, I do the same course in the same university at the moment. So that's really good. And holding several certificates in different universities. Joel has over 30 years of working experience in various industries, banking, IT, insurance, education. He's also a trained lecturer in universities around the world. And so it's really a big privilege to have you here with us. And beside all of that, he is also a good friend of mine, and he is my mentor. And I just called yesterday my mentor and asked, can you help us in our situation? And thank you very much that you were ready to come to us, to take the time, because 12 o'clock he will go to vacation, and just before vacation he's coming to us and speaking to us. It's really a privilege. So the today topics, he will speak about sustainability and what does it mean for us Christians. And when we see that in the world, so the last 500 years or so, the idea was creating new things. That's the goal for business and for the world. So creating new things, multiplication. But the question, so how do we do that? And are our products have sustainability, or do we do it in sustainable way? So we didn't think about that a lot. And I think the Christians 500 years ago, they started with this idea of creating new things, and through Christianity, the whole development in the West happened. And probably the Christians can start again to give a new movement of sustainability. And so therefore, you will speak to us today, and it's a privilege to give you now you the time to speak to us. So we will have some also work groups and discuss together, but I think, and I will tell you when it's the time for that. So Joel, welcome. Thank you very much that you are here. And I think I will start with a prayer, and then I will give the microphone to you. Father, thank you so much for this morning, for this opportunity that we have to hear Joel talking about a really, really important topic for us Christians, but also for the whole world. And so I pray that you open our ears, that we have a good conversation, a good talk, that we have that we get inspired by you, Father. And so we invite you in our midst. And so the time is yours, and the time is now yours. Amen.
Amen.
Okay,
Amen.
thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Marcus, for this very warm welcoming. And it's really to share my passion today, very last minute, but with a great pleasure. Always, I never say no to Marcus' invitations. It's always a pleasure. Let me just explain a little bit my journey. I've been 35 years in business. I've been in banking. I've been working for the Swissair Group. Been working for Hewlett Packard, member of the executive board of a medium-sized company. And now a leadership trainer, executive coach in a large American company, but also working with different universities and organizations. And many years ago, I'm coming from a missionary background. And to me, there is the good ministry and there is the bad business world. That's how I grew up. And you know, money is bad. Anything to do with ministry and God is holy. And this dichotomy is something that has disturbed me a lot, to say this cannot be this way. There should be a bridge between the two, but not coming from a business family. Really, my family, my father was a builder. My uh, I wanted to discover this business side, but I had this issue about the bad stuff. So when I started my MBA, I had the idea of finding a way that companies could have a good influence to the world. And we had at that time the basic of sustainability. I will mention that afterwards. And I did thesis on social enterprises, companies that have a normal business working, normal profits, everything normal, but they have a social benefit, a social goal that is in the heart of the organization. And guess what? When I did this, I had to limitate myself to Switzerland to make it feasible in 1 year. When I did that, I found mostly Christian companies, or companies owned by Christian. I don't know if the company can have a Christian identity and can accept Christ, but at least the people can. A hotel in Basel, Switzerland, for example. And I sat with the CEO of that hotel in Basel, and I'm like, this guy must be a Christian. And I start to look, and at some stage in the conversation, we started to discover that we were actually in the same church, just two different locations. And yes, indeed, he was a Christian. So from that moment, my passion for Christians, salt and light in business, grew. And this is what I would like to share. So what I have brought with me is a training, a business school training I normally give in universities. And I will simply give you the introduction as we give it normally. When I talk about company, we'll talk about, I would change to organization. So you can think about churches, ministries, a non-profit organization in a wide sense. So I will first give you an introduction on the history and the terms of sustainability. Maybe it's you have seen that already, but let's just put all ourselves on the same page. And then I will have 3 questions that you can each discuss in your location, and those who are online can actually stay with me on the Zoom. We'll do our online group. We'll discuss for 10 minutes a particular question. And then when we get back together, I would like to hear from one person, one spokesperson in each location to share what you have come up with. And so we're going to build that content. I'm also a learner here because I had only 24 hours to think about a worldview perspective of sustainability. So I want you to teach me something today. I'm really looking forward to hear from you. And we're going to design a new training together. So really passionate to see that with you. So let me just give you the. Here we go. Let me share that. So I'd like to show you a little bit the history of sustainability. So until the 1960s, 1970s, the goal of a business, and for those who know topic, this is Friedman, partly in the 1960s, 70s, says the goal of a business is to make profit, pay the workers, and pay the taxes. That's it. As long as they treat reasonably the workers, that's fine. Maybe the clients as well, that's another story. The taxes, they paid to the state, and the state, the government is doing all the work in the society, not the company. Everyone have their own job. And from that moment, from the 70s or maybe end of the 60s, there is different levels that were looked at. And you see that with the Carroll's pyramids. And I'm starting from the beginning is what I was mentioning, be profitable, just be a money machine. That's the goal of business for a very long time. But then obey the law. Okay, that's pretty much a basic, and that's called legalism. It's you just follow the rules to the minimum. As long as you don't get in trouble, you're okay. At some stage, they start thinking about that's a little bit slim, it's a bit basic. Maybe we should be ethical as well. We go beyond the absolute legal minimum. We go into ethics. Do what is right. And that's what the business community started to think in the 70s and the 80s. And at some stage, they come up with contribution to the community, do good to the world, not just what is right, do good and be a good corporate citizen. This has happened very progressively in different movements and at different times, different part of the world. In France, Michelin, for example, the famous company, tire company, but that also makes gastronomy guides, was created in 1840 in order to be actually a social company, with the difference of the UK Industrial Revolution. So you had some of those pieces earlier, but here I'm just talking general terms in the business world. So in the 60s, end of the 60s, the corporate social responsibility principle came. And it has different names that are nearly the same concept. So corporate social responsibility, CSR, corporate impact, hopefully positive, corporate shared value, is a shared value between the company and society, and corporate citizenship. So these are self-regulated, means the company do stuff and tell about it, and it's very, very vague. And what happens is very often, especially the corporate social responsibility that you see today, it's companies that would do certain things, give money to a non-profit organization, for example, and report about it. It's often done by the marketing department, and it's not part of the construct of the center of the company. And also to mention that the social enterprises you see in many parts of the world are actually the first, most advanced part of that, where you put the social impact in the center of the company. The company in Basel that I was mentioning, the hotel, their goal is to hire physical and mentally disabled people and integrate them in the running of a hotel. So that's in the heart of what they do. So what is the problem? Is it often leads to greenwashing. The company tells about the wonderful thing they do selectively, but in many, many ways, they are doing damages and negative impact. So here is the model. In 1994, a model has been developed called triple bottom line. And that's what we were studying in, at least in my MBA. I'm sure Marcus has that as well, which is that originally we are driving an organization and making decision on the profit, as long as it's a profit company, but even non-profit has still to make a little bit of profit for reserve and covering of risks. So financial is the first goal originally in a company. And what was developed in 1994 is to balance all the way. So, okay, we need the company to be profitable. We don't want to run into losses. We don't want to lose money. But equally, we would like to not pollute and damage the environment. So our impact on the planet, that's the second P, has to be positive, or at least neutral. And maybe what I consider the most important, the P for the people. The impact on the people has to be positive. So imagine, for example, you have a financial issue, you have to lay off people. Okay, this might have a negative impact on the people. How do I mitigate that? How do I balance the decision between the financial challenge and the impact on the people? Not so easy to do. It's sometimes very, very tough decisions to make. So this is the triple bottom line, the 3P, that has been introduced already almost 30 years ago. And in 2004, 10 years later, the principle of ESG was introduced. And I would like to ask you a question here. What do you see as a difference between triple bottom line and ESG? Somebody wants to, or you can also write to the chat if you would like. What is the difference that you see between the triple bottom line and the ESG? Yes, Ibadan mentioned governance. Yes, and there's another aspect that's an additional aspect, but there's one that disappeared. The financial element is gone. I think this is really a given, so we don't need really talk about it anymore. So we have the environmental, the P, the planet, and we have the social, the people. However, we now have governance. And this is absolutely marvelous because now we start to think it's not just about what we do, but it is about how. And we're going to look at each area with some examples you will see, but it's the decision making that every decision we make in the company has a positive impact on the stakeholder, on everybody around, in not just the employees and the clients, the community around, the suppliers, the governmental authority. There's no conflict of interests. We don't make decisions just for our own pockets, like you still see in the business world very often, to just benefit ourselves, but we have a balanced way to make decisions. We have scrutiny from outside organization. We have supervisory board and all these areas. So equally, environmental and social are not just for the inside of the company, but they are to the outside as well. Environmental is pretty obvious, but social, we don't only benefit our own employees or the owners, but we actually influence positively and have an impact on the society at large in each places where the company or the organization is involved. So how does it look like in a bit more detail? I think the environment is quite obvious. Renewable energies, green buildings, deforestation, native titles, interesting in some part of the world, pollution, obviously, reducing waste. One area that I particularly like in environmental, big issue today under pollution is the plastic. That is a big issue, for example. Social, we have the diversity, gender equity, but also race, that everybody is welcome into the company. Human rights, that's also to the outside, to each factory, to each area where we work, the entire supply chain, no bullying in the organization. Health and safety is also part of that, and data privacy. Now, governance, how does it look like? That the board is independent. There's no conflict of interests. The leadership is part of this, bit of social as well. They are accountable to outside organization, government, and so on. No bribery and corruption. Shareholders can have their say, and also the risks are being managed. So implementing all this with an outside view, with people having their say with different perspective, is quite a big program. And this is what I'm also preparing myself and my own organization to be an advisor to company, to balance those different areas, and that the decision making can actually be wise, balanced, and encompass and have as many of those being covered well. When we talk about the outside and societal point of view, around the same time, I think it was also 2015, 11 years later, the United Nations has come up with the Sustainable Development Goals. So this is driven by the UN, and the UN is now reaching out to companies to align what they are doing with this impact, this sustainable goal. So the goal is worldwide to eradicate poverty, eradicate hunger, good health, quality education. You see those 17 areas being some of the biggest priorities in the world. You see there's a mixture between social and environmental, and in some ways, number 16, maybe even governance. Good functioning government and justice is also a positive impact. So you now start to see companies, I saw just one the other day, that would mention, for example, school would say SDG 4, quality education. People who are into an area of sanitation, for example. So these are environments that being built, and companies would actually match that to their impact in the society. This doesn't concern the inside of the organization. It considers the society. So for example, if we are doing, I don't know, a school, we will be giving quality education. We'll be giving reducing poverty, because that will bring a higher income to the people who study. They would have better job. Therefore, they can provide for their family. And depending what is being taught, you would have impact in other areas. So this is actually the different elements of sustainability. And SDG is called a shared blueprint from peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and in the future. And I just want to tell you one story of very classic view. In Bangladesh, about the number one, in Bangladesh, there was a very big issue with the loan sharks, like it's in many parts of the world. So people who would set up a small business, even a family business, would have a very, very high cost of financing, nearly impossible. 25%, 30%, 40% interest. And an organization, a social enterprise, was created to provide reasonable or even low interest financing from small companies. This has grown at the national level at a very impact. And now, 15 years later, maybe, it has been noticed that the poverty in Bangladesh has been cut by half, actually through one organization, from what I see, or maybe a few other that helped. So there are some areas where certain business, but also NGO, together came and really solved a systemic, major national impact from many of those issues you see on the screen. And this is where I'm just seeing that my dream originally to see a bridge between the business world and the societal impact, the transformation of nations. Since a kid, I was praying, maybe like many of you, Lord, provide food for everybody in the world. That's number 2, SDG 2. So many of those things is what missionaries in the past maybe have been doing, is what Christian NGOs have been working for. Many projects, charity projects as we might call them, were actually looking at and trying to solve. Okay, so that's actually part for the introduction. I will be coming to my first question for discussion in a moment. Is there any questions so far about what I shared? Anything that is maybe not clear, I could quickly explain before we dive in. You can also write it in the chat as well. Just give you 1-2 minutes to see if there are questions. Okay, no questions. So if there are some questions until the end of our session together, don't hesitate. I can come back on certain things if it's needed. Wonderful. I have a question to ask you to discuss locally. and for those who are online with me. The first question, and I'll give you 10 minutes to discuss together, and then please name a speaker who will then share with us what you have come up with. And we're just looking at certain keywords, not very long explanation, just to collect a couple of points. So my first question is, what happens to our organizations, organization at large? Again, as I mentioned, could be churches, NGOs that have a Christian purpose, could be businesses as well, could even be governments or local governments, for example. Whatever is in your field of influence or in your calling. What happens if in our organization we don't include sustainability? If we ignore, let's say, ESG, for example, what is happening? Okay, so I leave you 10 minutes until 50 past to come back and have your spokesperson just mentioning shortly what you came up with. And if you just mute all the local rooms, and the people who are online can unmute themselves and discuss with me. Okay, have a good discussion.
Let's go to the discussion, 10 minutes, and then we will see us back on Zoom.
Okay. So John, Vivian, Ezra, I see. Ruth and Johnson, yes?
Can you come again on the question, please?
What happens if in our organizations we ignore sustainability or ESG in this, everything I've been talking about until now? Yeah. Okay, so Vivian, Israel, John, Ruth, and Johnson, and Ezra, that I see you are online from what I see. Would just love to see you so we can discuss together. Yes, wonderful. And Vivian, just very, very curious, where are you from in Malaysia?
Oh, I live in a place called Petaling Jaya.
Oh yeah, no, I know the place well. Yeah, yeah. I've been there many times. My wife is from Kuching, but my sister was in PJ, so yes.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Do you still come here often?
Not as much as I would like to. Yes, wonderful. So would love to have a little bit a quick discussion. So if in an organization, and again, you have to apply it to your own context, if we ignore sustainability, mostly ESG as the newest model, what are the consequences?
You mean apart from just being isolated?
Okay, that's a good one to start with. Isolated, yes, in which sense?
I think there will be a depletion of the environment if businesses were to ignore ESG.
Depletion of the environment. Oh, but by the way, would one of you would like to be the speaker? The spokesperson? I don't want to be leading the course and being the spokesperson, so I need a volunteer here. Who wants to?
Well, I can't say I'm familiar with the subject, so
You don't have to be familiar. You just have to report what we have been talking. So just mention the keywords. That's all. That's all. Vivian or Joy, who would like to volunteer?
Joy, do you want to go for it?
By spokesperson, do you mean someone coordinating the question and answers?
Yeah, we are just discussing, and the spokesperson just take note of the keyword like depletion of the environment, isolation. To just mention those afterwards. That's all, and maybe a one sentence explanation each. Yeah. So we had two things so far: depletion of the environment, Joy, and we'll come back on the isolation. What would the depletion of the environment have as a consequence, even for the own organization? let's say you work in a very polluted environment.
Yes. And it also has health hazards. When the environment is depleted,
Yep.
it leads to
Health.
health hazards.
Yeah. Yeah. Now this is a very interesting one. Just on the organization itself, if people are always sick, it's a problem. You can't do the work properly. It has an impact,
Yes.
and the whole society. Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So, and depletion of the environment having a consequence on, for example, health. Okay, good. And Vivian, you had the isolation. What do you see there? Intriguing.
I mean, of course, if if you're not part of the flow, then you'll be isolated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And eventually, become either, I don't know, irrelevant or insignificant, but there's also another thing with it can have impact on health hazard. If environment affects health.
Yeah. So just to stay on the first one, and we come. I was once leading a wedding. I was as a pastor celebrating a wedding with a couple where one of them the family was non-Christian, and I sat with them, plenty of time during the day, and I explained the social impact of the church. Just our small group, our prayer, impact on mental health, on social inclusion, how we train people, in addition to the spiritual side. And they're like, wow, I didn't know the church was doing all that. So I was in a way, okay, I didn't have the ESG model then, but I was in a way explaining the S of ESG. I was mapping something we do, without really questioning it because it's normal of what we do. And I was mapping it into a recognized nomenclature, into a recognized structure. So sometimes I hear Christians who would say, oh, ESG is bad, whatever is all, whatever, world government and so on. And then we feel isolated because people don't understand you do nothing for sustainability. Actually, we do a lot. So, but okay, here we discuss when we don't. But people don't understand the impact we bring because we maybe don't speak the same language. We don't map it in a certain way, and we're not able to document or demonstrate it in a way that people understand. They think, oh, church is just praying the whole day and doing nothing else. So that's maybe the isolation of people not understanding what we do.
Can I ask a question? So is SGD really making I'm assuming that there should be a balance of distribution in natural resources, which means that in order to sustain something that is lacking, the one that an excess, has to cover. So are we talking within a limited, or not a limited, a confined natural resources?
Yeah. That's in a way another topic of the global view of so what I brought here is just an organizational point of view. My organization, what impact does it have? And I think this is something that the UN and other international organizations try to have the overall perspective of bring, let's say, global justice. To say if you're consuming too much in one area, and you're depleting some others, this is not fair. We have to do something about it. And that's a vast topic, but it's maybe some people are called into that area. But here I just take about if we are leading one organization, how do we navigate? How do we make decision and see our impact? Yeah. And I start to learn that topic you mentioned, but it's still still a very, very vast topic. I was in Davos doing the WEF 2 weeks ago, and those topics are being discussed, start to be discussed now there. Many, yeah. So we had, Vivian, you had a point about health as well.
Okay, so okay.
Yep. And we are finishing in 2 minutes. So you had a point
Okay,
of
so,
health. Joy?
Yes, I was going to talk about what would happen if organizations were to ignore the G, like the governance. Like if we have organizations that are not paying taxes, for instance, it could affect government's revenue and also developmental projects, thereby eventually getting the business into trouble, leading to loss of jobs and just irresponsibility on the part of the business.
Wonderful. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, like in my part of the world where we have a lot of where we don't have so much social infrastructures. We don't have good roads, we don't have basic amenities. It could be traceable to businesses that are not paying taxes, businesses that are not aligned to government policies and government rules. So it affects us, it affects developmental projects.
Yep, wonderful. With what I explained about legalism, the legal base, we assume when you do ESG, you at least follow the minimum of the law, and that's the more additional things. But let's say just in paying tax, it's not are you paying tax or not. It's sometimes are you evading tax? Are you falsifying document to pay less?
Yes.
So I have actually even friends who mentioning that the goal of a Christian organization is to pay at least taxes, because it's going to the bad government and so on. I say, who is going to pay the school and the hospitals? Unless you do it as a company, you know, you have your own private hospital for the whole country, or churches do that fine. But so far, the government is the least worst system to provide coverage for health, for education. And hey, we have to pay our share and make it function. So very, very good. Thanks, Joy, for bringing that. And if you would just share those points afterwards, I think we have impacted several of the areas. So we could discuss this the whole day long, but it's just to get a bit of sampling of what the consequence could be. Wonderful. So we'll see if the others are ready to get together. And Joy, you can just maybe just one sentence explanation for each point, just a point and the one sentence explanation. Wonderful. Very, very nice to talk to both of you.
Thanks, Joy.
My pleasure. Terima kasih. Or in my Hokkien, kamsia. I'm speaking a bit Hokkien and Mandarin, so and Bahasa as well.
Okay.
Everything. Okay, we are at the end of our 10 minutes, going on 12 minutes. Are the different places ready? I'm sure you have great things to share. So this is how it goes now. We try to make it not too long. So just mention the points you have. For each point, just one sentence of explanation. Many points will be similar. If you can repeat it, doesn't matter. So your points, for example, I make a very dummy case, fishery, because fish are important not only for the water, but for food. That's an example of 1 point and 1 sentence. Who want to go first? I see that Villa is already unmuted. Abuja is full attentive, but still on mute. Oh, we have Malawi and okay, who is coming?
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
No, why can we not hear him?
Okay. When we look at our time we are in, we need to change something. And if we don't balance all those factors, we go just in one direction and we will have no healthy person or no healthy environment and it will not work out.
Wow, that's quite a dramatic, wonderful. Yeah, we need all these different parts to work, to function well. Okay, wonderful.
And we want to add as well that, I mean, we said we need everything. When we just not focus on also doing profit, then we don't have business. So we need all of them and cannot focus only on one or two.
Very, very nice. I'll give a few closing remarks on that topic when we're done, but very, very interesting points. Wonderful. Thanks very much. I have Israel in Ibadan.
Good morning, sir.
Ready to share. Good morning.
Yes, sir. You talk about sustainability, and I want to talk on the issue of ministry and church. There are values that church holds, and that the church is passing to the people in the church. But if we ignore such a thing, that church is going to collapse.
Wow.
We are not going to leave legacy of good Christianity to the people that are coming behind us. That is why sustainability must.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, really, really interesting. And that bridge between ministry or church and the society impact of you. Thank you very much for sharing. Abuja?
We concluded that, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
In our group discussion, we concluded under the HSSE summary. We discussed that if there is an ignoring of the sustainability policy in any organization, there will be a negative impact on the health of both the workers and the people around which that organization operates. There will be a negative impact on the safety of the people, either their food safety, their physical safety, their cultural safety, or even the safety of those coming after them, the generation, if there are negative impacts in the environment. We also concluded that there will be issue of security on the people and the immediate impacted area where that organization works.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you very much. Beautiful. Do we have somebody in Malawi able to share? Okay, just in the meantime, our online group, I think we have Joy ready to share something. Yes.
Okay, so in my group, we saw that if organizations, if Christian organizations were to ignore the ESG, it could lead to a depletion of the environment, which could lead to health hazards, which could also lead to a depletion of social amenities. And we also talked about that it could also lead to exclusion, because like if we don't involve the people around us in what we are doing as a church, they might not really know the impact that we are having on the society apart from the spiritual aspect, which could make us kind of like isolated, and it will not also draw more people to us. And if we also ignore legal processes in the government, it could lead to a depletion of social amenities, because, for example, if we are evading taxes or we are falsifying documents and we are not going the legal way as we are supposed to run our business, it will affect the government's provision of social amenities, which will impact on the life of the society at large and also our organization.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Joy. Anybody else I missed who still want to share? Okay, so wonderful. I love really your answers. We touched all topics, and Wille mentioned that additionally the connection with all of them is equally important. And obviously, what I observed, I was 2 weeks ago during the WEF in Davos, in different discussion forum, and sustainability was a very, very big topic. And 80% of the time, I hear about environmental, and 80% of the time of environmental, I hear about carbon. And I said, this is completely out of balance. Social is very little discussed, and governance even less, although the model is quite well known. I think as churches and non-profit organization in Christian field, we focus a lot about social, and that's we're going to come to that afterwards, what we can make out of it. But obviously, if we don't care about pollution, if we don't care about the environmental different ways and the health, many of you mentioned that, what's the point having staff, people, and even our family members who are constantly sick? Having people who are sick, having preventive sicknesses is also a problem, because we have to care for family members who are sick and are at home, and so on and so on. So this has a lot of interlinked impact with the different points. I love the points that actually was the idea of Joy in the group where I was to talk about the taxes. And I have Christian friends who saying that, you know, we want to pay as little tax and make any construct we can, because we put the money in the hand of people who are not godly. It's like, okay, but who's going to take care of the hospital and the schools? If Christian organizations do that, fine. But so far, the government is a valid way to do it. So governance, also the way we interact with government, that we provide to the society. Paying tax is not just G of government; is also S, social, providing infrastructure. So this is complex points, but it's all interlinked. The fact that you or that we all can communicate in English around the world, this is an impact coming from education. So all those points are interlinked, and we take them maybe for granted very often, but it's really nice to think about it. And then, and that was a question we had in our group about the overall social, let's say social justice across the world, the global distribution of resources and so on. For today, we only look at my organization and what is the impact it has or it has not in its environments. It's another discussion to look at the overall worldwide picture. Wonderful. Okay, so let's move to the next one, same format. And maybe if you want to have some justice in your group, you can also have another spokesperson as well. We'll have 2 more questions actually to go for, so you can prepare yourself. So my question is actually the okay, sorry. Before we go to that question, I just noted some answer of what can happen if we don't include sustainability. And again, this is maybe a view more of corporations, but we could have fines. Okay, for example, smoking has been fined of over $245 billion fine in the 25 years. Increased cost because there are more and more issues. Organizations who want to have premises or infrastructure, even a church who want to rent a location, and the owner of the premises or even the public authority oppose them or boycott them. No, we don't want an organization like you in our building because you have a negative impact on the society. Boycotts of clients or partner, and that has happened to Christian organizations in the past. Reduced employee engagement. The employees and the staff are not very convinced of what we do. Reduced productivity and difficulty to hire and retain people because they're not very excited about what the negative impact of the company. Okay. Next question. What happens, you probably guessed it, if we do sustainability right? What is the best scenario? If we really do this well, what could be the best possible impact? That's the happy day question. I give you 10 minutes in your group again, and spokesperson would report back. Have a good. discussion. Sorry?
Come again on the question.
So what happens if we do sustainability really well?
Right.
You do it.
Right. If we do it right, we do it well. Yeah. What is the best possible scenario with sustainability? Yeah. With including sustainability in our organization.
Okay.
Okay.
Is it okay, Joel?
Yes. Okay, so I'll give you 10 minutes in your groups, and at 15 past, we come back.
Yeah, exactly. Good, very good. Thank you very much. Enjoy your break and the discussion.
Okay, please mute.
At 10:30.
Please, local group, please mute your Zoom, and I get back with the online people.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So Joy and Vivian, don't know about Ruth, John, and others. Okay.
Okay, so I'll go first.
Yes, go ahead. He seems to have some great things to share.
So basically, if we do sustainability right, apart from the social impact and then the infrastructural development and the sustainability of the environment, I think as Christian organizations, it will serve as a means of evangelism, of drawing people to Christ or drawing people to the church and making the church more relevant in these days. Like where I come from, people are easy to judge. People easily judge you by your actions. I run a business. And then people come to buy from you and they're like, I thought you were a Christian. Why are you charging me this much? They tend to relate your faith to everything you do. And then if you're doing things right, maybe people come to your shop and you treat them right, you give them the right prices and you speak right. They're like, are you a Christian? They easily they're like, they don't even ask you if you're a Christian. They ask you, which church do you go to? I want to go to your church. So I feel apart from the fact that doing sustainability right will preserve or conserve the environment, make us better citizens, and every other one, I think it draws people closer to Christ and to our faith. It's a form of evangelism, of bringing people into the faith.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm still thinking how that exactly how it is exactly works. And maybe ask you the question. By the way, who is the spokesperson? Is Joy re-elected for another round, or Vivian wants to pitch in?
I would always go.
Hello, Vivian, you
Things
did
go
this
well.
time. You
So-
did this time. You are our spokesperson.
So Joy is elected by unanimous acclamation.
You
How you
did such
doing?
a good job earlier.
It is. So I just thought let's assume somebody doesn't share our Christian faith, even somebody from Muslim background or atheist backgrounds, and they don't agree with our message, with our normal evangelism. Christ is the answer, is the truth, and so on. How would that those aspects of sustainability, because of course it's more, how would they then bring them closer to Christ? I get the basic principle, but I'm just interested to know how that works in more details, how you map them, or how you...
Like I'm basing that off on my own worldview, like in Nigeria, where you have we have a lot of people who are unbelievers, we have people who don't go to church, and their major reason for not going to church is always that a church person cheated them, a church person duped them, a church person did not do right by them. So because of that, they stopped going to church or believing in Christ. And they believe that Christians say one thing and do another thing. And basically, we are judged by our actions.
Yeah.
We are our fate is determined by our actions. What you do determines if you're a Christian or not. So if you're a person of faith and you live right and you do your business right, they tend to they are attracted to the church. Okay, if you have a church that does a lot of charity, you see people saying, oh, for coming to clear out this gutter, Christ is in that church. They will tell you there's God in your church. I want to worship in your church. And then people use all these things to judge us. Okay, imagine a church is located in a place where everybody is poor, or majority of the people are poor, and they give back to the society. They give back, maybe they pay school fees, or they build a school, or they sponsor people in school. It makes those people to come to church. It makes them to actually believe that Christ is real.
Yeah.
It might not be the same reality where you come from, where the government does everything for its citizens. But here, most times we have to do most things for ourselves. And it is by our actions that we are basically judged.
Wonderful, wonderful. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really interesting because in a way the ESG is not impacting your core business. If it's a recycling company, okay, obviously they will have an impact on the environment, positive impact on the environment. That's their main business. But what do they
Yes.
do with the social impact? So for us, it's almost the other way. Of course, we have a social impact as a core business of the church. I'm mapping, but what do we do in the other areas? So I take it from you that it helps us to be balanced, or to make sure we are not ignoring one aspect which could be detrimental to the way
Yes.
we see. Vivian, what are your thoughts?
So I'm just thinking, comparing between if it was a privatized organization as opposed to a government agency, a government-run body. I think I have more questions than being able to process this out. My question is, if it was in the hands of the government, if they did sustainability well, the effects is so much more greater than if it was just one private company. I wonder.
Yeah. I see that you think in very systemic way, the governmental way, and that is actually in a way absolutely ideal. But I was hearing several governments speaking in Davos 2 weeks ago to say a government is too small to do that. A government is maybe 10% of the population of a country. The businesses are the 80 other percent. So the government is more a coordinator. Maybe they make programs and they organize it, but the food soldiers, the real resources come from businesses, because also they have the money. They already have the staff. Raising volunteers will be incredibly complicated. It works, but it's very distributed. But a company of a few thousand people can actually, in Malaysia, Petronas, or petrol company you also have in Nigeria as well. So take the 5 top company in the country, that if they are fully doing a very good job in sustainability and ESG, just imagine the impact. It's greater than the government. So this is why it's a public-private partnership. That is the solution with the two. But of course, somebody has to organize that. Somebody has to pass the message. And so it's UN in the international way, the government in the national way, and then going into into the company's private, could even be non-profit, but in general. And this is things just for the point where we looked at how a company can, without spending really more money, with just shifting a little bit how they do things, they can have this positive impact, and it costs them nearly nothing, because these are all things they do already. If you have to train workers for work, how can you give maybe 2 days more courses and you give them some other life skills, or how can you, human resource can help a little bit with some of the family issues that people might have, or things like that, So, yeah.
Okay, so there's there's an oil producing part of Nigeria where you have a lot of oil companies.
Oh, yes.
And if those companies were to work, if they were to do sustainability rights, I think the impact on the environment, because there are some places in Nigeria where they have what's called black suits.
Yeah.
You have these fumes from the refineries and the petroleum companies that go into the environment, corrupt everywhere, that you breathe in. When you breathe out, or when you have soot, the soot comes out of your nose and all that. So if you were to do sustainability right, I think we will have a cleaner environment,
Yes.
have a healthier environment, even the marine body. There are some places where there are no more fishes. There's no life in the rivers anymore.
Yeah.
So I think the environment will also be better off. And also, like, it's farming. There are some places where their farmlands are not producing anymore, just because these companies are not doing sustainability right.
Yes.
So if they should do it right, I think the quality of life of the people will be better. Their lifespans will be longer, and then people will generally be healthier. You have a healthier environment, healthier people, a better workforce, and then the government will be more stable, because it's all these things that bred insecurity in the Niger Delta, where you have hoodlums kidnapping expatriates and causing unrest. So I think if they should do sustainability better, it will impact the entire quality of life of everybody around them.
Wonderful, Joy. I think we all agree we should support Joy for president.
Not just one person.
But this really warms my heart to hear that, because this is what we should be doing as Christians. Have a complete, caring, overall. We still have a few more skills to learn, but having just a national impact, a systemic impact of economic justice, of all these aspects. So it's just so wonderful to hear. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think most of us are back. We still have Villa, who is in caught in deep discussion after this talk back, where you just mentioned what you have spoken. We're going to take a coffee or tea break. I'm starting to I'm sometimes looking at inclusion, and when I said we do a coffee break, some people don't like coffee. So to be inclusive, I'm saying we're going to have a break with a warm drink of your choice.
Yes.
No, some countries say tea break, some others, like in UK and so on, and others say coffee break,
In Nigeria, it's so hot. It's so hot we can't take coffee or tea, so we can do a water break, cold water.
Oh, water break. Yes. Okay, Malawi is there. Wonderful to see you guys. And Villa is still not here. You can anyway clean up your notes and be ready. We're going to do a... And why don't we have Malawi speaking first? So nice to see you guys. Yes, all ready. Yeah, we're just waiting for Villa. I don't see them coming back yet. And then we do our rounds. I just love those stuff, because we have to restrict the time, obviously, but we could talk about this the whole day. And so, at least in our group, and what I hear from all of you is so exciting, really. Wonderful. Villa, are you here? I think it's the first time I have a course where the people in Switzerland are late. By the way, just a fun fact, why Switzerland has this punctuality point of view is just because we developed train very early, and we had to know the time to not miss the train. That's all. Okay, so let's take a 15 minutes break. Tea, coffee, water, whatever it is. And in 15 minutes, we give our come back on what we shared, and we will have Malawi starting first. So we've seen 50 minutes at 30 past, we give the summary of what we discussed on that question. Okay, see you guys in 15 minutes.
If it's recorded, how do you decide?
It means that they, after recording, they post it online. They got it. Abi?
How do we get it?
Okay,
You want to
once I can get it.
please.
You need it.
I almost everyone, and I've been looking for you.
No, they don't just unless
Okay.
I go and ask staff Abi. Yeah, don't just post. Sometimes and you won't, it will secure now. So even if they give, you know how to not to but the one because some of what they are saying, must be what they are saying, not like no, it's not even there are some what they especially you keep it for not to but they are not like everybody can. I'll ask for it. And it might not even yes, if they find out this what is
You said it.
I got to give it for this finished. You need that of MC Donald. I think I posted for you guys. You need that that man, that evangelist. I'll link. I will send you. Yes, sir. I'll send it.
How did David my
Or evangelist.
and apology?
I'll ask for this one to be
Apology. I just know that. Uh,
How do you buy it? You know, there is data that doesn't stay long. That's why I was asking. There's one that stays long.
This is normal.
When I buy
Then
which one? Even those ones.
you can say that that depends on how you there's any data.
Yeah, this one is for 1 month.
And 1
I will
month
tell you how
that
many data as for 1 month that I've used in 1 month. You 21 data in 2 months.
if I see somebody said you don't want to know that
I want to buy.
what they are already I was somebody that you will have asked for my account if I want to buy. So how many people have it for 3,000 naira? And that particular
Okay.
40,000 naira.
Kí ló dé?
I know that that somebody else will be 100,000. He said, just talking about I'm using that. Then you give him revenue.
I think if probably a businessman that is still called
Yeah.
there are few people that have 300,000. They have the money, they have data, they have airtime.
The data to more money. The other money that is like problem. I will just use it to cancel it. I will like my wife will wait.
No, once all these people that are selling data, me, I don't buy
At
it.
least my wife
Data
use
to buy.
data.
If MTN direct that I trust, MTN that will tell you that this data you can use it for this thing. Before you say pam, they are taking the data away. No, it's not that somebody is connected. Something I want to understand. That's why I'm asking. It's not that somebody is connected to this one I'm using. Cannot finish like MTN.
All of them are just is having and the honest thing about people now is when I use my time, I just discovered that I know that I always have, but the problem is that by the time you are now, you now say after 2, you don't buy, you don't top up that, you just take away all the bonus like
You know what I'm saying? They started doing this thing like 3 years ago. If you they will give if you load, they will give you airtime, they will give you bonus. Before, if you don't have airtime, main airtime, you can still use your bonus to come. But this time, the first call of the day must be from airtime. So definitely, it's not to a time that, and if I am calling, it's from the airtime they will remove. They will not remove from their bonus. My own bonus was now piling up 1,000 naira. They did not take it. They were removing from my airtime. They did not remove out of. They did not even touch the police. And before you know it, they will just clear the bonus. See, right now, I have like 488 MB of data of MTN. Data finished. How come? And I'm still 198, but they are not. They are not touching it.
App I somebody that showed me that you can even chat without okay.
Hello, brother Israel. Can you hear me? Hello, brother Israel. Hello. Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, most of you are starting to come back. Finishing my coffee. Okay. Oh, 50 seconds. You're on mute. Yeah. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We are back from coffee. We had a good discussion, and I think that you understand why we do in our worldview school why we have this topic, because we understand now the problem, but the big thing is how can we address that to the Christians, that the Christians also start to think in a sustainable way. And this is the reason why we have this in our school. Thank you very much, Joel. And now I give it back to you that we can then present what we have in the group.
Absolutely.
Okay, you will facilitate that.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
You,
Thank you very much, Marcus. I just love it, love every minute of it. Just hearing your thoughts is just so wonderful, learning from one another. So I'd like to open the debrief, maybe starting with Malawi and then Abuja, Villa, and then online. So Malawi, what did you come up with? Okay.
Yes, we are ready.
Okay, you are on.
Yes, we on.
Hello,
Yes, hi.
my name is Shugana Bubaka from Malawi. We have seen the goodness of sustainable development, more especially in farming, agriculture, sustainable agriculture.
Yep.
Yeah, we have seen that mostly we don't depend on much money, but we use the resources that God has given us. And there is increase of productivity and no waste of food. So if this is done, we are going to reduce hunger.
Yep.
Yes.
Wonderful. Yep. Thank you very much. Thank you. Abuja.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, we have 4 points here. Positive impact on the environment, less crime in the society, increase in profit at the long run, and some sort of harmony or sense of belonging in the organization. Those are the 4 points we have here.
Wow.
Yes.
Belonging, lower crime. Wonderful. Wow. Brilliant. Avida?
It's possible that people work for less money. The salary is maybe not that high, but because they see what for they work, they will do it.
Wow. Okay. So making sense or high value of what they're contributing with. And online we have Joy.
Okay, so in our group, we discussed that if sustainability is done right, that it will have a positive impact on the environment. The environment will be cleaner, thereby making people healthier, and there will be a reduction in crime rates as a result of economic problems. And even the environment, the water bodies and the farmlands will be healthier. So we'll be able to produce more crops to reduce hunger and starvation, and also have marine life working.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Very, very exciting. Thank you very much for your contribution. Obviously, what we do here is just to scratch the surface, is to plant seed. I know this, you have been discussing this topic many times as well, but keep thinking, keep going along. You see, it's very interesting that how all the things are linked together. The environmental issue, sustainable agriculture, for example, feeds the people, improves the health, and then give even possibilities, economic possibilities to people. So we often think of just one single area, but actually they are often linked together. And I would like to do a little exercise with you before we go in the next question. Oh, let me introduce it with that story. I was once celebrating a wedding, and one of the two families was not from a Christian background. And you know, in the afternoon, we had the whole day, and they came to me and started to talk about what is church and all these things. And it was almost 10 years ago, 12 years ago, before I was in any of sustainability topics. And I explained the social impact of church, just the social impact. Huh? I said, we actually give inclusion, sense of belonging. We mitigate mental health issues. We train people, you know, and so on and so on. And then it's like, wow, you do all that. I thought you were just praying, you know, you do all that. And if we come to the church or to Christian organization, the thing, and we discussed that in our online group as well, especially on the last question, that people don't understand what we do, or they think we are just a religious organization only evangelizing or prioritizing, advocating our faith against all the others, bringing nothing to the society, and they might boycott us. It might be very, very difficult for churches, at least is the case in Switzerland, to rent a building because they think we are some kind of weird organization. So how do we explain what we do in a non-faith way, especially to people who don't share our faith? And I think sustainability is an opportunity to have a vocabulary, a nomenclature that we explain what we do. So let's try and do this together. I've shared again the SDG goals, and we think about church or parachurch organization, so very, very close to church. And you can just take in the chat, and which SDG do you think we support as churches or as Christian organizations? You can just type the number in the chat.
I think all of them.
All of them. Wow. Okay. That was Joy, was it?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. In part, or let's say, what are the major ones? The one that in our normal activity as a church, just in service, in our normal ministry, small group or cell group, what do we support?
Number 3.
3, absolutely, because spiritual side has a big impact on health and well-being. Absolutely, yeah. 3.
Number 4, because
yes,
almost all the churches run schools.
And that's what you are doing right now. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then number 5.
Yeah. Wonderful.
And number 10.
That is the key of the message of Apostle Paul. Already in the 1st century, about there is no Greek and Jew. I mean, a powerful message of mitigating inequality. Absolutely. Yeah. So what do you know, when I see this kind of things, I'm like, this is really amazing, because the church and its people, the body of Christ in general, including our businesses, including our NGOs, including our families, the body of Christ in general, actually, this is done for us. Or let's say differently, if we are not doing that, who is? I mean, I'm sure that's the topic of many of your courses, but this is just another way. It's just numbering and classifying impact. But this is a wonderful goal to say, taking the Bible, taking our faith, taking our worldview, what do we build and how do we contribute? And I believe the society and our governance have to hear that. It's wonderful that we can explain it in a language that they understand and explain where we are. Wonderful. So that leads me to the last question. That's the last thing that stands between me now and my holidays with my family. That's also SDG goals. Good family time. I'm sure we all agree. So
Yes.
let me tell you that at the end, I'm bringing a thesis that's saying many companies, many organizations do sustainability for reputation. That is the view of the CSR. Okay, I'm doing certain things. I'm documenting them in a glossy report. Sometimes not telling the things I'm not doing. Selectively selecting the good things. And I'm boasting about it in order to attract clients, maybe suppliers, but especially employees as well. Okay, as Villa you were saying, is about getting people excited to work for us, even for lower pay or equal pay or lower. Here we go. That is to me the reputation, the image of the organization. In corporate world, we talk about EVP, employee value proposition. We talk about the company value proposition. We want to give the impression that we are a good organization. Our image, okay? Branding, it's part of the branding as well. The problem is there are holes. We don't tell what we don't do. When you have suddenly NGO who start to look at large companies or governments said, hey, but you are missing this. You say you do good here in that place or that factory, but you don't talk about major flaws you have in other places. So at the end of the day, it's almost a lost battle. So you have the legalism, which is we want to comply to the law and not get fined for doing wrong thing. Then you have the reputation, which is that we want to look good. We want in the surface to be seen positively. I'm bringing the thesis, and that's what I'm teaching in my when I bring this topic to universities, that it's not a question of reputation, ... It's a question of, I'll let you guess for a few seconds, of trust. Now, if I look at Marcus, and you know why I'm in Villa, and let's say I'm the canton of Bern, the local authority where they are, and everything I'm telling them is a challenge. What about the pollution of your site? What about mobbing or discrimination in your school? What about you know? And you list all those issues, and every time Marcus comes and he can show me we are not only doing quite well in all those areas, but we also know our weaknesses, and we also know that maybe we have one or two weaker points, but we are working on it. That's what we are doing about it. And everything he tells me, it's honest, clear, and mapped, and I feel he takes it seriously. Public authorities, suppliers, you know, partners, all the stakeholders around. What is the impression I will have? I will come to Marcus and I said, Marcus, I don't care what you write. I don't care about your annual report. Nice to hear, nice to read, of course. Wonderful picture, wonderful graphic, good examples. But whatever you do, I trust you. I trust you to do the right thing. I trust that you are wise. Wisdom is a very interesting concept, by the way, made of 5 different aspects: knowledge, intuition, and so on. I think that you are wise, that you are accountable to people outside your organization or people inside, that you are open to scrutiny, that you are serious about doing a good impact. That is, to me, trust. So the goal is not just to have a tick in the box in each area. That's a tool. That's a way to measure, a way to look at it, a way to explain it maybe. But at the end of the day, if people trust in who you are, even if they don't share our faith, I don't believe in Jesus. Maybe you could say a public authority. I don't believe in Jesus. I don't share your faith. But you guys are wonderful in so many areas. I trust you. So I don't want to say more because that's actually my question. Just imagine this trust using sustainability as a checklist or as a way. What would that trust, what would be the consequence in our churches and ministries? Go a little bit beyond sustainability, but using sustainability as a frame, trust towards the stakeholders. And I mentioned several examples, all the different partners, public authorities, suppliers, if you have businesses, of course, clients, or learners, also clients. In a school, for example, churchgoers, what will be the impact? Can I leave you 10 minutes again to discuss? Let's dream a little bit what it could be like and what doors it opens. What is the real consequence of that trust due to those actions? And then get together and do our final rounds of give back. Okay, 10 minutes until top of the hour, 00. Okay, so we have Joy. Vivian is.
We're talking about sustainability, but when some and then when they are able to
Okay, Joy, if you're here, I just need to. We just have somebody in Abuja who has the microphone still on. Would be great to
The
mute.
impact or the consequences, once if we have the trust or if we are able to build it.
There is a consequence of trust.
Okay, Joy, are you here?
Yes, I'm here, Joy.
Okay, wonderful. Sorry, I'm juggling at different screens and trying to see that we have. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so let's dream a bit. What could it look like in a full trusting environment?
Okay, if I think the consequence would be on more productivity. Like if somebody trusts me to do something, I think I'll do it more because I don't want to breach that trust.
Yep.
So beyond the annual reports, the pictures and everything, because of the trust imposed in that organization, I think it will drive them to do more.
Yep. I'll just take note of something to share, which is the speed of trust. Wonderful. Yep. Yeah. Do more, be more motivated. Yeah. It's a wonderful feeling, and to be trusted, and you want to honor that trust and do nothing to damage it. Yeah. Wonderful. I'm adding a word in addition to trust, which is favor. Can you imagine if we have, and I'll share an example later, but if you have several organizations that can do some work, let's say for a larger company or for government, and they have a choice, competitive bid, and they have 2-3 organizations, wonderful, and they have one is the fully trusted one.
Yes.
Let's say their price is even a little bit higher, but they know this is ethical, they have triple bottom line, they have ESG, I mean, everything is really, really good. Who do you think they will choose?
Well,
It's
they'll
good.
choose the first one they want.
It's good for business. Yeah.
Yes.
you get favors. You get, of course, priority. But if we think of the church, for example, that's maybe the easiest, and we have full trust. What could be the consequence? A big big result.
If I had if a church was very trustworthy, I think it will attract more people to the church. It's just the same thing as favor. To make more people, it will make more people have confidence in the church, in the leadership of the church. Attendance will increase, and also it will lead to increased social responsibilities too.
Very, very interesting. I was a leader in a international part of a large church, and I see people coming to church, not coming for faith, coming for the social well-being.
Yes.
They start to come because it's good to be here. You guys are caring. Okay, the message, your thing about Jesus and all that, it's a bit over my head, but I love to be around. The sense of community first. And then little by little, they draw closer to Christ.
Yes.
But first they come for the people. Maybe for the food as well.
Yes,
They just come because you guys are nice people. You guys are caring. It's loving. It's lovely. The rest, I don't know, but at least that. So it's attractive. It's wonderful to be around.
Yes. We had a case like that in my church. We had a pastor that was very trustworthy. He was social. He was always going around. If you don't come to church, he calls you or checks up on you.
Yeah.
And the church was always filled up. Well, as soon as the pastor was transferred out of our area, the church went down. Like attendance went down to almost nothing.
Yeah.
Because they were not having that same feeling. They did not feel the new pastor the way they felt the old one.
Interesting in what you say. It's not, if you really analyze it, you might come to the conclusion that it's not just what the pastor did, but the reason. Because if you know the pastor is, let's say, paid or get a bonus based on the growth of the church, you're like, okay, he's doing this to get more money, you know? And then the trust is impacted negatively. But if I fully trust that this pastor is calling me, is asking me how I'm going, completely unconditional love, wow, that's a different thing.
Yes.
Yes. So the motives, okay, this is the construction of trust. That's maybe another topic, but the reason why we do things is purely clean, let's say, or with the highest motive. Just have to check because we.
But most times you might not know the reason why somebody is doing something. What you see is what the person is doing, and you just go ahead with that, not knowing the person's motives. Because I believe that nobody does anything for nothing. Even if it might not be for completely selfish reasons. Like the pastor might be checking up on you so you can come to church and the church is filled up. Not completely because he wants your money, but maybe because he wants to mark attendance.
Yeah.
So he's not checking up on me for nothing. If there's no reason for him to check up on me, he will not check up on me. So sometimes we actually
that a very, very, very good one. I think you're right. Even if it's to have a great testimony, you know, said, hey, I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to support you because I want you to be next Sunday giving the testimony about that healing. Of course, but I think some of those motives are actually good and pure. Yeah, I want a vibrant community with great testimonies because people to build their faith and that they can see as well. Of course, it's constantly in the back of the mind. The church will grow. We can maybe get a few more staff. Of course, when I'm doing doing work with people, I try to always focus on the person and seeding impact. Knowing that what I need, good business, good, of course, some income comes as a consequence, but I'm not seeking that directly. I believe if I seed enough with the right motives in the right place, so, put the kingdom of God first, and God will provide in that sense. And people will give me the business because of the impact I have. But I try not to mix the two, because otherwise we cut corners and we're doing things that would make people doubt our motives and will erode the trust. And we have sometimes to separate that a little bit, showing good trust, good impact will be good for our organizational goals anyway. Yeah, that's and that's difficult, to be honest. Huh? It's this kind of dilemma or mixed goals. Yeah.
Yes, because yesterday we were taught about evangelism in the modern days in this SBCW class. Yeah. So the speaker talked about self-promotion. That sometimes you see people post their own pictures, and then they use scriptures to cover it up. Like, I can post a beautiful picture and then I'll now write, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Yeah. So that the essence is not actually promoting God, but yourself. Ooh. But when I look at it critically, I see that it is, you cannot separate it. You can't actually separate both.
Yeah, so true. Yeah. I just have one of my nephew. He and his wife are pastors, and she shared about the mess in her life, the mess in her house, the mess in her life, and how God is giving her grace. And grace is available for everybody. And I sent her a message and said, wow, we rarely see a vulnerable message. Saying that you are perfect, that your life is perfect, is not credible. Saying how God sustains you and gives you ways and grace and forgives you and grow and help you grow is already, as a pastor, is so beautiful to hear. Okay, time is time. It's time to subscribe. Subscribe to what? Interesting. Okay, I see that almost everybody is ready.
No.
I see that Abuja is ready. Shall we hear Abuja first? I haven't seen Malawi coming back. Villa is ready as well, but let's hear about Abuja first. Alphabetic order. For once. What happens if we have great trust?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we had a discussion, and these are the few points we came up with. Number one, we said the employees will give their best to the organization. They will have sense of security and safety. That will make them give their best to whatever the organization brings on the table. And also, number two, we said the community will be involved or play their parts more effectively because of the trust, and when you have companies in places and there is trust as a result of sustainability, you will see the people coming to play their own parts. And then we also said that people will take our faith seriously, because as Christians, when they come and they see our worldview, they may not believe in our God, like you rightly said, but they will take our faith seriously. They will know, okay, these guys are here to take care of the people, and there's a social impact from them, and so on. And then we also said that worldview of others will be positively impacted. So the worldview of people will begin to change as a result of our activities, and they will be seeing that from us. And also we said there's going to be an increase in patriotism. People will be patriotic as a result of what they have seen from us. Thank you.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful, beautiful. Yeah, very exciting to hear. Malawi?
Hello, my name is Blessing Silia.
What a great name, lovely name.
So in Malawi, we have seen that if we build trust in people, in our companies, we will be making more profit, because what is in our plan, and we are doing the same things on the ground, then people will come to us and buy our businesses and will increase in profit. Because we can say that if the Bible says faith without action is dead. So our actions and our plan must go together so that people can trust us. Thank you.
Wow, that's our actions and our plans come together. We do what we say. Wow. Absolutely. Wonderful. Villa, thank you very much. Thank you, Blessing and the team. Villa?
Yeah, if we build trust, then it helps the people working in the company to be more efficient, and that makes everything easier. And also there is freedom when we build trust in one another. People give more freedom at the same time. Yeah, like when we give freedom to people, also it helps them to work better and more efficient. And on the other hand, like if there is no trust, then we lose resources, and also there is control. Like something system has to be controlled, kind of thing. It happens to be that way if there is no trust. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much. And online, which is a group that is getting smaller and smaller. So my partner in crime, actually the opposite in reduction of crime. Joy.
Okay, so in our group, we said that if an organization is trustworthy, it leads to.
We have very big noise from Johnson.
Okay, so we saw that when a business or an organization is trustworthy, it increases productivity. It leads to increased productivity, because to whom much is given, much is expected. So when people trust you, you on your own, you're motivated to do more, to uphold the sustainable development goals. And also it makes the organization favored. It attracts favor from government agency, leading to more business and more profitability.
Wonderful. Very, very exciting. I love to, when I lead workshop or team coachings, I always ask that big impossible or that big dream, what could we achieve? Not talking how, that's maybe sometimes the last question is how do we get there? But just saying, how could it look like? How can that be, what could we achieve? And then it's quite exciting. We just have Israel and Ibadan. You would like to share? Just have a raised hand there. Israel and Ibadan? No. Okay. So I just want to share with you a few things, and I would have. I mean, we are actually even ahead of time, so we are so efficient and well organized. Absolutely well done. It's really wonderful. So I will have a last question coming. How can we build the trust? And after that, we'll just use the remainder of the time for question and answers. So you can also prepare questions on the side, which you can share verbally or in the chat, and I'll probably take them at the end. And we're just going to give a couple of ideas on trust. But I just want to give you a few of the points that I have about trust. Firstly, to give a couple, I'll just come back to the corporate world, and I'm going to give one example in church as well of what happens when trust is being damaged, and then I'm going to give you some additional potential benefits of sustainability and trust, and then we're going to finish by discussing how it looks like. So if you've probably all heard about the Boeing 737 MAX, you know, problems after problems. It's not just grounded planes or even fines or even delayed delivery. It's a question of trust. People after a while have difficulty trusting Boeing overall as a company. Johnson & Johnson in, I think it was in the 2000 or last end of the 90s, they have death due to impact as a Tylenol, the painkiller. And they decided proactively to withdraw the medication from the markets to prevent further death. That has costed them hundreds of millions of dollars, but that has completely brought additional trust in the company. That's a positive example for once. British aerospace industry had several corruption scandals, mostly in Saudi Arabia. Trust issue, not just fine. Volkswagen and the Dieselgate, it's not just a bug in the software. It's a trust issue. Trust issue in the entire company, costing billions of dollars at the end of the day. I had one of those cars with one of those engines, by the way. And I come to church example last, but last corporate example in Switzerland, Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse, and I know people who work in both Credit Suisse and UBS, Credit Suisse has repeatedly issues of compliance in banking. And every time they told the regulator, yes, we know, we pay the fine and we'll address that. And every year, the same issue keep coming. At the end of the day, enough was enough. And the government asked them to sell their company to their competitor. 170 years old company going bust or being sold because of an issue of trust due to behavior. So this is not a small issue. And I think also people around us start to be more and more skeptical, more and more clever into seeing there's something maybe wrong with them. Church example, City Harvest in Singapore, having collection of funds for, and this is a well-documented case, I discussed it with several pastors of the region. They collected funds for a building fund, I think, and reused that fund for the music career of the wife of the senior pastor. And we're talking of fairly large amounts. The regulator of the non-profit organization in Singapore, the government of Singapore is fairly skeptical of the large influences that church have. So they look at mostly the money governance. Misappropriation of fund is a crime in most countries. The pastor of City Harvest, the largest church in Singapore, was sentenced to prison. That's a big issue of trust, not only in the public, but with the public authority. And then people start to doubt about all churches in general. You guys are just after money. You guys are just funding your own career and so on. That was a major discussion. It happened about 10 years ago, I think. Major issue. So at the end of the day, trust is something that is not just a tick in the box here and there, but it's a general perception that people have about us. It's more than reputation. And if we do it right, if we are trusted, I'm going to cover a couple of benefits. There are many of them, but we would have additional market share in general, especially if we are trusted to address different people. We are able to hire more people because they are excited and they are trusting who we are. They are staying as well. People are more motivated, more engaged. Productivity is higher. Creativity is higher because we trust our people. And I think we mentioned most of them. And we have improved partnership. Many organizations, many partners that we need will come and say, it's a privilege to work with you guys. So at the end of the day, trust, just think about inside the organization. I don't know if you have ever, I'm sure you have, worked with low trust teams where everything you do is checked, asked skeptically what is happening. At some stage, you just cross your arm and you said, okay, if they don't trust me, or as they don't trust me, I'm going to just do the minimum. Very bad place to be. So bringing the trust, the empowerment, that's a whole leadership topic as well, gives freedom to people, also even the freedom to make mistakes, trusting that they will do their best. Now, in consequences, and we discussed that in our group as well, when you give trust, people will honor you. They want to give you a return on your trust. They will not only do their best, but they will try to do nothing to break that trust. So trust has a very, very strong dividends. You receive much more than you give. And there's a concept of Stephen Covey Jr., The Speed of Trust is a book he wrote, that when there is trust, things go much faster because you don't need to double check everything. You don't need to question everything. That's applicable within a company. That's what he's talking about. But it's even also applicable if as a church or a Christian NGO, you are going to public authority and they said, okay, thank you for filling the form. We're not even going to really look at it. We trust you guys anyway. Otherwise, you can imagine everything is okay. We need to do due diligence. We need to send expert because we're not sure you're really telling the truth or whatever. So it's much faster to get things done. You save time for everybody doing so. Let me tell you a story for the next one. My wife comes from Malaysia, and not everybody in her family are Christian. There's a brother-in-law who is actually not only not Christian, but he thinks religion is the cause of all the problems in the world. Not a good place to be. So when I'm in Malaysia, because I was a church planter with the church, we got married in Malaysia in that church. It's a church that I know well and care. So I usually attend many of their leadership meetings and just want to learn from them. So they asked me last time I was years ago. I was there 5-6 years ago to give training on societal influence, how we have influence in the whole society. It was a whole afternoon workshop I was leading there. And I told my brother-in-law, it's fine, the pastor is going to pick me up at this time, so I'm going to be off for the afternoon. And he said, Joe, I'm driving you there. And I'm like, no, it's okay, the pastor can pick me up, I don't want to disturb you. You know, knowing his not so keen attitude towards the church, I didn't want it to bother him even more. He said, I insist I bring you there. So I called the pastor, it's fine, I'm coming at this time. And on the way to church, it was a 15 minutes drive or 20 minutes drive. He told me to say, no, sorry, by the time we got to the building, they have a van because they are doing social services as a ministry of the church, actually on the contract on the city. He pointed to this van and he said, they are good people. Actually, this guy, and he knew the name of the guy, this guy is a good guy. This is good people. I was like, sorry, did I get this right? For all these years, you're telling how horrible Christians are. They are the source of all evil in the world. And now you're telling these are good people? He said, they bring food, they visit people, they are good people. I was like, okay, thank you for sharing. I came in, I introduced the topic, they introduced the topic, and I started by saying, just in front of your building, I will tell you what just happened. And I told them that story. And I said, look, guys, people who don't share your faith are praising your great result and impact. Your social ministry is the window of the church, is showing your heart. And that's a story, it's just filled me with so much joy. They got out of their building, started to impact people, to visit them, I don't know the details of that work. And this was even on contract of the city. It was an official contract. They got paid to do that. But people knew it was linked to the church. A so wonderful story. This is what benefit of trust I see is favor. Just imagine that city, and that city has to give a contract to and has a choice between 3 commercial organizations led by people who are money oriented and the church. And let's say the church is not even the cheapest. Who would you give the contract to? The one you trust. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So, of course, this would give you favor. It gives you freedom. You can propose things that are a little bit out of the ordinary. You can give it a bit your own flavor. People will trust you. In the work or in contracts where I am, sometimes I'm taking gray areas. We are sometimes very restricted on have to do things. And sometimes I go just at the limit, if not above the limit of what is supposed to be done. I take a little bit of freedom at the condition that it's for the good of the organization, the good of the people. It's in my strength. I'm really good at that. And then they will see the benefit, never for personal gain. So if we have trust, we can slightly do it a way we think is better. People would say, okay, I trust you, that's fine. And lastly, just a wonderful picture about church. I was serving for 15 years in the largest evangelical free church in Switzerland, being part of the group for the international side. So it was a quite well-known church, and the international part was about 150 people. And every week I see the people who were coming. And I saw people, because we had really international people, people from Mongolia, from many, many countries that were not Christian background. And I start to see people coming around. And I realized they are not even here for the faith. What we explain about Jesus is not really, they're not here for the preaching. You know what they are here for? The community. Now, maybe it's normal for you in most countries, but in Switzerland, you know, we're not that friendly and community. We don't always have food at church and all these things. Actually, in this case, we did, but because it was the best place to be, because they knew in this place there was acceptance, there was love, there was care. They come for that first. And then little by little, they are opening their hearts for the spiritual reality, for what we are talking about, for the ministry. And they accept Christ down the line. Suddenly, they are ready. They raise their hand, and I mean, but they came originally for our social impact. What is the best place to be on a Sunday? In a loving community. What is the best place to be during the week? In our cell groups, in our place, because we are here to help and support people. So I just found interesting that sometimes it is that social impact, as we define it on the sustainability point of view, that will really attract people. It's our fruits first, before they want to see the menu and the kitchen. They want to taste that food first. They want to taste the fruits of the Spirit. They want to taste the fruits of our work, the impact. They want to hear the stories and the testimonies. And trust is a very complicated thing. It's not rational. It's a suspicion. They have a suspicion that we are loving and caring people. And that's why people come. That's why people also in our organization gives us favor. So I have just the last round, the last question of our round of questions. And then please also take note of some of your questions, and we can finish our time after that on a Q&A of some of the points you still want to hear about. So my question again in your groups, 10 minutes. What can we do to win that trust? Now we're going to be practical. We know this is a good place to be. I think we all agree with that. What should we do to get there? Okay, 10 minutes. So at 32, and then also you can be ready with your questions for Q&A. Wonderful. Have a great discussion. See you in 10 minutes.
If you can hear my
Hello?
Yes. Hi, Joy. Sorry, I was waiting for you. Okay. You're still on mute.
I had power outage. I had issues with my power.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Nice to have you back.
Thank you.
So
So please, I
what
didn't get the topic of discussion.
you didn't get it?
I didn't get the topic of discussion. I think I
Yeah.
was offline.
Yeah. Okay. So what do we need to do to build that trust?
Okay, so as an organization, I think the first thing we need to do is to live by our values, our corporate values. If we are an NGO focused on education, we should be able to use the funds that have been raised, be it personal funds or donor funds. We should be able to use it judiciously, and then we should also be accountable. We should live by what we say. We should live by our values, and all the projects that we carry out are supposed to be verifiable.
Yep.
If I said I have an intervention, or I had an intervention in a community, there should be people in the community that should attest to the fact that we actually came there and we carried out that project the way it was supposed to be carried out. You know, like I've seen cases where organizations are supposed to hand out maybe school supplies. They're supposed to give maybe exercise books, biros, crayons, the entire school supplies, and then they just come there and share empty school bags with nothing in it. So and then they write a report saying that they carried out the intervention. I think every our project should be verifiable.
Wonderful.
And then we should be accountable. Accountability also breeds trust. Our books should be, and then we should always be ready to be held accountable.
It's amazing. I was making my own list while you started to speak, and before you even mentioned it, my first point was accountability. And I was thinking of verifiable, from outside, not just the team of the leader, like, oh, you're so good, you're the best leader ever, everything you do is fine. No, real scrutiny for the better. And I love what you say, because it's accountability to the beneficiary. In an NGO point of view, we ask the people who we serve, are we serving you well? Is there anything we miss? Anything that we're not up to the work? So it's not just looking ourselves inside, but asking people, are we missing something? What can we improve? Where are we missing it? Yeah. Wow, that is probably the heart of the whole thing. Yeah.
But there are some organizations that claim to be autonomous, like in terms of business now. If like we run a business, my husband runs a business, and I don't know, how do you measure accountability in a private owned business, a private owned Christian business? How do you measure accountability?
Yeah, I'll probably leave that question for the Q&A. So for two reasons, because I need a few minutes to think about it, but also I have initial thoughts, but also I think everybody would benefit to hear that answer. Whatever we come up with. So this is I just take note of it, and maybe you can repeat that question afterwards.
Okay.
Because I think
okay, go on.
I mean, of course, we could discuss it now and then come up as a conclusion, but I think it would be nice to bring it overall. Yeah. And maybe you have your own answer already.
I don't really have an answer. I don't really have
No,
an
no.
answer.
But just this is what I'm thinking to rehearse. Outside accountability is key.
Okay.
Having those people, external organization telling about you, I mean, trustable, neutral one, and also mentioning what you are not doing properly.
Yes.
Not just, this is the difference between the glossy reports that only have positive things, like having companies, or saying, there's a wonderful video of Apple who talk about their report and they're saying, we're still not there yet. Or we have this goal, but we are a little bit behind. So they recognize their weaknesses, their challenges, and lastly, they show actions towards them. Not just we are good, we are bad, but this is what we are doing. Even if we are good, we still, so it's showing the actions in addition to just very superficial things we are, and somehow, and also being always asking people, what do I miss? We have our blind spots. We have areas that we totally never thought about, and I'm going to give an example later. So what do I miss? Tell me, what am I ignoring? What did I forget? What am I not paying attention to? Not just getting better in the things where I'm already good. And that's more like external advisory. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like another way to build trust is what you said about Johnson & Johnson, where they had to call the product from the market. I don't know the word for that, but I think that's a very good way to build trust. Because like in the business where in our own business, we sell gym equipment. So sometimes you get someone buying a treadmill from you.
Yep.
And under the period of warranty, the treadmill malfunctions.
Yep.
Some businesses will not take it back.
Yeah.
Especially if it was a refurbished treadmill. But when you take it back, you build trust.
Yeah. Wonderful. Absolutely. Proactive actions. Yep. Wonderful. Are we all back?
Hello?
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. When I lead workshops like that, I love to have a lot of discussion, but my goal is not to give you knowledge, is to give you frustration. Frustration that the discussion was too short and I have to keep working on it. Yes, that's the name of the game. It's just an introduction, it's just a taster. And you start to see some answers and it's like, oh, okay, I need to still think about it. Yes, exactly. Because it's not what we discussed today that matters. It's what you take from it and what you do in the next years with it. That's really, it's just a kickstart. That's all. So it's to give you the excitement and the interest to say, I need to do something. Now that I know, now that I have already a few ideas, I really need to do something about it. I cannot ignore that anymore. Good. So let's just do a quick roundtable. How do we build trust? This time we could maybe ask Vila first.
Yes. One point we talked about was to live in integrity, also to walk your talk. In order that others trust us, we need to trust them first. So do we trust others?
Wow.
And what definitely also helps in the business world is like to think locally, because if people know our farm, our business, how we treat the cows, where the meat comes from, that definitely helps the ones who buy the meat. So when things are local. And another area is that we work and live as all heavens are looking at us. So the way I work, the way I talk, the way I live my day should not be a difference if someone is around or not. But that God is watching at me and at us, and I think that's the basis of that trust can be built towards us.
Wonderful. Wow.
Very
Very great to hear.
More.
Okay, so let's do the opposite alphabetic order. So Malawi.
Hello.
Yes.
My name is Moses Panda from Malawi.
Yes.
According to us, we have discussed that we can win trust in people, especially business, by being honest, hygienic, good communication with customers, and the good relationships. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Great. And Abuja?
My name is Kubra Augustine, and we discuss on 3 points: how to regain trust. And one of the most important aspects or element where we can maintain trust is by providing social service to the community we exist. Remember that we are not only expected to be based on the spirituality context, but rather we are also called to serve our community by identifying with them in their various needs. And also, number second, we are expected to maintain integrity. Remember that we are living and surrounded in a world of weaknesses, and we are expected to become an icon of hope to others and be an element of example, perfect example for others. So for someone to trust us, we need to maintain a high esteem of integrity so that can make them to gain trust in us. And also, we are also, number 3 is praying for the community. Prayer is a necessity because we must identify with them. Like some person, they are suffering from spiritual problems, and we as a body of Christians, we are expected to pray for them and to identify with them in their various spiritual battles. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, beacon of hope, being a perfect example. And I like your point about prayer, because prayer starts with empathy. You know, we cannot pray and judge at the same time. This is very difficult. So that's is the highest level of care. We first have to we recognize the issue, we listen to them, and then support them in prayer. Wonderful. So the biggest, largest group is the online one, which is just Joy and myself. So that's why I don't want to be the spokesperson of the group I am in. So Joy is the faithful spokesperson on the online group. Joy, up to you. And you are on mute. Here we go.
Okay. We concluded that some of the ways we can build trust as Christian organizations is by being accountable. We have to uphold the value of accountability, both to the beneficiaries, to our donors, if we are a church, to our congregation, the governing bodies, and everyone. And then we have to live by our organizational values. We have to do what we say. We have to live by our values, do what we say we are. If we said we are a company that has integrity, we have to stand by our integrity. And then we also have to live by taking proactive actions, just like what you mentioned about Johnson & Johnson calling back products that they knew were not good from the market, despite the financial losses involved. So that helps us to build trust.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you very much. And Ibadan.
Okay. Also from
Actually, it's cutting off. It's cutting off very, very badly, so we can't hear. Why don't you write your points in the chat and I quickly read them so we can have your points.
Where we win the trust of people out there is if you are being transparent with people.
So we just heard the last two sentences only. Why don't you write down your points in the okay, can you just repeat now? We try again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now it's good. Yep. Yep.
Okay, thank you, sir. So I was talking about transparency.
Sorry, it's cutting off again. So
Transparency wins trust. Given.
So yeah, could you just write your points in the chat and I just read them? Because unfortunately we can't get a full sentence across. I would love to have your point. And I'm sorry, I was not clear that yeah. Okay, great. Yes. So I share a few points and please write them in the meantime and I'll share them. I'm going to just address one of the points. That was a question of Joy in our group, and I'm going to answer it to all of you so we can all benefit from that answer. And he gave me a few more minutes to think about. Let me start before I answer that question, which is how do we bring real accountability? Or how does it work? I'm part of Hillsong's church and part in Zurich, but as a global community, we had the question in probably you saw that around the world with the Black Lives Matter. And it was during COVID, so I was listening to the preaching of Hillsong London. And when it came, it started in the US. And in UK, they're like, you know, we are a loving church. The congregation in Hillsong London is about 30–40% Black people, actually. And there are many of them are assistant pastors, you know. So the pastor said, hey, it's all good. We're doing really well. You know, we integrate them, we give them leadership position. There's no difference of ethnic background at all. We are good. And then one of the leader, one Sunday, the pastor, a white Australian guy, came and said, I am really, really sorry. Actually, I need to ask forgiveness to my Black brothers and sisters. Okay, why? Because I completely oversaw the issues you are facing. Not necessarily in the church, but in the society. I was thinking Black Lives Matter is an issue of the US. We don't have this problem. Because many of you came to me, he said, to tell how difficult it is in the daily life, how the police always check on. A guy, just give you a quick example, a guy said that he bought a 50p, just a bottle of water, one of the cheapest articles in the whole store. And the security guard held him for 10 minutes because he didn't have the receipt. And the guy said, no, you didn't buy it, you steal it. Now, stealing a 50p, I mean, a 50 cents. And he said, look, this is what we face every day. And what I learned that day is that you don't know what you don't know. You are looking, I'm doing well, I'm good. You know, I mean, by the way, both personally and organization, this is applicable to everything. You can't see, this is blind spots. There are areas that we don't see. So accountability, as we discussed, as Joy was mentioning, is that people tell us what we miss. And I'm learning this, I'm learning leadership with John Maxwell for many, many years. And John said there's always a question he asked his leadership team. What do I miss? Not where am I good at? Okay, we know that, or we talk about this quite often. What do I miss? What do I ignore? What did I forget? What is a topic that I don't even see that I'm blind at? So the key to accountability is to ask people external to your circle, not people who clap to everything you say and you do, but a bit skeptical maybe, to actually help you open your eyes on certain things that you didn't see. And I think is also Joy, because of course I had quite some discussion with her in our group, but she had a very interesting thought. When you had an organization, an NGO, that cares, many of you, for example, talked about sustainable agriculture. Let's say you do product for the agriculture community. You want them to tell you how you're doing. Your beneficiary, your clients, your church community, you want them to tell you how you're doing, not the leadership team. not your inside team, says, hey, be honest. I mean, you can tell me the good things I do, but that's not what I'm here for. What can I improve? What do I miss? Where do you think I'm not really credible? Tell me that, because I want to improve in every area. So we are not just here to improve our own strengths, but we are here to be accountable, which means also a bit critical voice. I really want people who still believe in us and potentially said, hey, I'm sorry, but here you're really, really missing it. This is, you need to really work on that. Okay, good. So that's to me the point about accountability, people speaking honestly into our flaws, weaknesses, and what we miss, and people a little bit outside our own circle. Now I just have the point for Ibadan. Thank you very much to write them down. Honesty, trustfulness, integrity, and transparency. Wonderful, wonderful. All those points means that we also admit our weaknesses. In this course of sustainability that I'm preparing for university, there are many people speaking, specialists of sustainability in companies, and they said the most important part of a sustainability report is not what we do, is what we don't do. Is actually to say, hey, we're a bit behind schedule here. We're not really reaching our goals here. We know we are not that good in this area. We admit it, and this is the course for action. This is what we are doing about it. So that's the difference between the greenwashing, where we only get the public side, the positive side, only tell the things we do good, pat on the back, hey, I'm doing so well. No, okay, I'm doing a few things well, but this is the area where we still lack, that we're still working on. We know we are a bit behind. Just to tell you as well, in sustainability for companies in Australia, there's a standard now for sustainability reports where they have to name all the areas where they are lacking, where they're not doing well. And I think we all spoke about that, about honesty, integrity, transparency. We are honest about our weaknesses areas as well. And I think that builds trust. Be accountable to people a bit outside our own circle, possible beneficiaries, clients, outside organizations, and admit or tell where we're not doing well and what we're doing about it is contributing to build the trust. And we know where trust leads us. And that's really wonderful. So walk the talk, yes, but in practical ways, how does it work? Thank you so much for your contribution. We have another 10 minutes for questions. Or maybe Marcus has some closing comments as well.
Yes, thank you so much. Can you bring it down? Thank you so much for the teaching. It was really a great teaching. And I think probably somebody from here can give feedback, a reflection to Joel, and to know what you take out of it, and what inspired you, or what was really important for you. Somebody from here, and then we take somebody from another location. But please, does somebody have a feedback for Joel? Yes, don't be shy. We don't eat you. He's far away, he cannot.
I found the connection between sustainability and trust very helpful. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Yes, somebody from Ibadan? Wants to give a feedback? Yeah, okay. I don't know techniques.
Oh yeah.
Somebody
in Abuja. Somebody in Abuja is wants to give feedback, I feel. Yes.
Thank you very much for the teaching. We quite enjoy what we had. We have learned, for me in particular, that our spirituality is not divorced from our services to the society. And sustainability is an issue that is very, very important for the gospel that we preach to make the right progress. So I want to thank you, our brother Joel, for this wonderful expository teaching we had this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raj.
For your feedback. So somebody from Ibadan.
Okay, I'll speak for Ibadan. As Joy here. So, I'm really grateful for the topic of discussion, because before now, mostly as Christian business owners and also as church persons, we did not really think, or I didn't really think that the church had to impact on every sphere of society or influence. I thought it was just the normal, you do your spiritual thing and that's it. And then as a business owner, I never really related my business to the SDGs. I was basically in business for profit. Payment of staff salaries and tax was just like our main focus, not business as a mission or business as a ministry. So I'm grateful for the teaching, and I hope to imbibe all the teachings of today into my business and also my church.
Oh, that's good. Thank you very, very much. So Malawi, is it possible to connect with Malawi?
Here we have a question. So our question is, if we already destroyed the trust in the people, so which steps will you follow to restore the trust?
Restoring the trust takes about 100 times more effort than keeping it. So of course we don't want to be there at the first place, but I think to rebuild trust in general as a person, but as an organization is even harder, is going the extra mile to be accountable and open. So of course asking forgiveness, recognizing the wrong, and sharing what we are going to do about it, and doing it consistently.
Thank you so much. Yeah, building up trust is really not easy. Losing trust, it's easy.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Joel. It was really a pleasure for me, especially as my mentor, that I can listen to you about this topic. And just going back, why do we have this in our classes? We want to help you to understand the sustainability. Business has something to do with Christianity. We as Christians, we are made for taking care of the world, for sustainability, for eternity. That's our goal. And I think that a lot of churches are focused on going to heaven, let's say, like this, or probably social care also. But I think we have to come back as Christians to think sustainable. And we are the one who really have big answers for the world and can help. But we also need to first stay understanding that this is our task. We have to go, we have to teach nations. And this is our task that God gave us. Go to all nations and disciple them. So I hope this you understand that the relationship that we want to build here with Christianity, and I hope as well that you were impacted by Joel. I mean, I am, but I hope that you are also impacted and start to think about sustainability in your business, in your project, with how to handle people, how to handle environment, but also think about how we can get profit or how we can yeah, can run a business sustainable. Probably profit is not the right thing to say, but we need to have some money that we can make investment for the future. So thank you very much, Joel. It was really a pleasure to have you. And now I wish you a very, very good week, holidays with your family. Say greetings from us here from Wheeler and from Ibadan, Abuja and Malawi. And we wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that it was such a blessing to hear from you and your vision and your desire for impact, and really God bless you in being really the head and not the tail, and really being a blessing to your environment, your communities, not just spiritually, but in any ways we discuss. So absolutely warms my heart to hear from all of you.
So much.
Thank you.
Now we say goodbye and enjoy your holiday.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.